Nobody wants to switch offices because they might have to walk another 10 feet to the.
Sheriff, remember that one or no?
And then, you know.
Yeah.
He was.
God forbid,
Or
that-
he was here in person. Oh,
do they have to go
I
outside?
did not hear otherwise.
to get to the
We have staircases right
Oh, so they don't.
upstairs.
I was just thinking, how are they avoiding the weather?
No.
I'd like to call the Finance Committee of the Whole to order and join me in the pledge, if you would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Commissioner Slaney,
Here.
Commissioner Jelazinski,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell,
Here.
Commissioner Hope,
Here.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
all present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Up next will be approval of the agenda. We'll start with general public comment on agenda item. We have no presentations or special reports. We have one appointment to the jury board. And then we'll get into the committee, Finance Committee, the whole business. We have 6 business items there. And then we have no intergovernmental affairs, no administrator controller issues, no unfinished business, no new business. We'll have general public comment again towards the end of the meeting and then announcements and adjournment. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Marino.
Support Jelazinski.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we have an agenda and that will bring us down to general public comments. For general public comment. Seeing no one for general public comment, we'll move right along to appointments to boards and commissions. Item A, there is consider appointing one member to the Isabella County Jury Board for a 6-year term ending April 30th, 2031, or until a successor is appointed. And the applicant there is Sharon Brown. Sharon Brown currently chairs that jury board, so she's looking to be reappointed as a reference letter from a judge, a couple of the judges, so. Anyone else want to speak to that issue? Okay,
Current chair.
yes. I think I read that. Judge Allen and Judge Spencer Noggle signed the letter of support. Okay, we will move that item to next Tuesday's meeting and we'll get right into committee reports, Finance Committee of the Whole. And item 1, consider ratifying and placing on file the March 28th 2025 invoice list in the amount of $270,499.24. The April 4th, 2024 invoice list in the amount of $2,010,242.83 in the adjustment list dated March 27th, 2025. Administrator Smith, do you want to walk us through these?
On the first one for the March 28th invoice list, that's $270,499.24. Out of that amount, the general fund portion is $65,181.39. The big ticket items out of this one was the $17,000 for MRP properties. That is the temporary administration building rent for May of 2025. Another one is the advanced benefit solutions of $21,892.53 for the April 25 dental vision expense. And you'll also see that there's another payment to the Central Michigan District Health Department of 59,146.94. That was just to transfer previous 2% funds to the Central Michigan Health Department.
Questions?
And I will go on to the April 4th list. And on this one, the total amount is $2,010,000, $242.83. 1.5 million of this is to Clark Construction Company for the construction charges to the correctional facility. The portion of the $2 million of the general fund is $97,243.60. Portion of this is the March monthly medical examiner fees and other related smaller ticket items. There are some items in here related to additional charges to the new jail project. And there's also $48,260.83 to the inmate medical services contract.
I do have a question on this one. On the Saginaw County Sheriff's Department, we must have housed some of our inmates,
That was for juvenile detention.
juvenile
Yes.
detention. Okay. Thank you.
That was a 30-day, $250 a day cost to them. Next up, I think we have the adjustments list, and for some reason I'm missing that copy. Thank you. We have the adjustments list dated on March 27th. What you'll see is here is that there were payments made to Coldwater Township for a final settlement from the treasurer's office. There was two that were changed. One was to remove sales tax. Another one was to fix a calculation error. And the rest were added to avoid late fees or to get early payment discounts on that.
Any questions? Okay, hearing no further comments or questions, we'll move on to item number 2, which is consider approving the submission of the fiscal year 2026 Michigan Indigent Defense Commission MIDC Compliance Plan Grant application and cost analysis. Mr. Hausman, how are you, sir?
Good morning, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, so this is kind of hard to believe this is my 7th time coming here to present this, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's grant application time. Our grant application is due April 25th. This is the first year in those 7 years that there hasn't been any new standards to comply with. It's all 8 are implemented.
Mhm.
So it's kind of status quo at this point. We're obviously still working through the most recent standards, standard 6 and standard 7. Biggest one is indigent defense workloads, basically that you can't handle more than 150 felonies a year, 400 misdemeanors. We're still trying to figure out where we fall on that line. Those are weighted, so it takes into account probation violations only count as a half a misdemeanor, things like that. So we're still trying to, it really is. And so we're trying to sort it out. We don't know, I mean, we keep track of it on a weighted Excel spreadsheet in the office, but so early into it, we're only 6 months into it, still trying to figure that out. We haven't been notified of any non-compliance or anything like that, but we're still trying to figure out where we fall on that scale. The biggest changes obviously is with standard 8. Hourly rates for the contract attorneys are going up to $127.84 an hour for misdemeanors, $140.63 an hour for felonies, and $153.38 an hour for life offense felonies. Most of the counties in our surrounding area are rounding those numbers up for 2 reasons, mostly accounting. So they're rounding them up to $130 an hour, $145 an hour, and $155 an hour. And what we've had to do in the past is we've rounded up. That was one of the things we decided we were going to do 2 years ago. And part of that is because our surrounding counties also do the same thing. And so sometimes what we have to do for conflicts or whatever, we have to ask attorneys from another county, whether it be Midland, Mecosta, Clare, to come and handle a case in Isabella County. And so we want to remain competitive with those other counties and keep that same hourly rate, because if we need to reach outside of our contract, get somebody to handle a case here, and we're paying them $2.50 an hour less, that doesn't really provide them a lot of incentive to help us out and handle a case in Isabella County. So since kind of everyone else kind of rounds up, it makes sense for us to do the same thing. I've worked with Steve Shoemaker from Buildings and Grounds about getting a quote on replacing the HVAC system in the Public Defender's Office. I already have that. I've included it in the grant. I do have a rough draft of our cost analysis already. It's not completed. I'm working on salaries and wages with Chris Whitmer and some other quotes we need for things, because we have to attach all those quotes as attachments to the grant application. And the biggest thing that we've encountered with Standard 8 was the chief assistant position with the office. If we remember, when Standard 8 first went into effect, we submitted the grant, but that position didn't comply with that standard. It was paid too low. And so our grant was up for denial. And then the commission at the meeting decided to pass the grant with a salary that was too low and didn't comply with Standard 8. And so at the time we had met, there was a meeting with myself, at the time, Administrative Controller Frost, Chief Judge Eric Janes, Carrie Curtis, myself, Dave Barbary, and we had talked about, that was kind of the start of the wage study discussion. And we had said, hey, let's talk about a wage study, but we were going to exclude attorneys from that wage study because Standard 8 already told us what our comparables were. So we didn't feel at the time that we needed to compare ourselves to other counties because all those other counties have the same comparables that we do, which is the Assistant Attorney General scale. And so at that time, the chief assistant position in our office has never been put on a pay scale. It's just gone up to the minimum every year since then, every October 1st. So, I think that should be remedied. I think she should be put on under that position, should be put on a pay scale. So there are regular wage increases, there's step increases. So that's kind of one thing I think we should remedy with this grant application. Obviously we could choose not to, submit a grant. We'd still be on the hook for doing everything. But it would be at the cost of the county. Local share actually somehow went down. So I don't really know how that happened, but when I started doing the grant application, the local share, not by a whole lot. I don't want to, I believe it was normally
I'm not gonna go because last time I had it wrong.
$240,306.09.
I was off by 20,000 last time. My memory's not what it used to be.
Well, when I plugged it in, I think it was 239. So I mean, not a whole lot, maybe by like $1,000, but
I think that last number, the 240 is what is the fiscal year 26. And it was 243, I thought. Before, but I could be wrong.
when I plugged it into eGrams, it came up with 239. So
Oh,
I'll go with
okay,
that. I'll go with
yeah,
that. So yeah, the grant application is due on April 25th. I'm plugging along, getting ready to submit.
So I can't use the argument that it hasn't went down because even though hopefully it's not a trend, so.
Yeah.
Definitely plug that number into your financial impact here.
I have the original, like I said, because that's what's in the grant. I submitted, when I did my staff report, I think I included a copy of the grant manual for everyone. And I believe that's what's in there is it's the local share plus 2.1 consumer price index. But when I went into eGrams, it showed 239 and change, so which was a small decrease. So I'll double check with eGrams and make sure when I'm in there.
Yeah, just for benefit of some of the new commissioners here. We were kind of going right along with the standards 1 through 8 and they skipped it, went right to 8. And with the Attorney General pay scales, it's kind of really put us into a difficult position because we were planning to hit the 1 through 8 as they came. And because we had to adjust that, it really messed up our pay scale, and I think we're getting back to where we were, but it was not expected, and he could argue that it was probably not fair, especially for some of the smaller counties that have to use the pay scale from Lansing, so that's what we were given, and that's what the grant requires, so I don't know if you guys had any questions, but it's been,
How long did it take for this grant to get approved typically?
It's usually, so we submit it, it's due April 25th at midnight.
Right.
MIDC has a commission meeting in June, and it's
Okay.
usually at that June meeting that they approve or deny plans. And then if they deny it, they kind of kick it back to us to remedy whatever the issues are,
Right.
and then there's another meeting, I think, in August. And then obviously the fiscal year starts in October.
Okay.
Remind me, the total cost is,
Don't know yet.
well, right, but so in 2025, the Michigan paid
Our total grant, I don't have this year's in front of me, was, it was 2.1
2.1.
and 1.9 was from the
Right.
state.
And with our agreement, keeping with standards, we've always paid 240.
Correct. Yep.
That's not gone up at all for us.
And yeah, I mean, now that we're kind of into the swing of things, like our grant request really doesn't change a whole lot. Obviously those hourly rates for the attorneys go up, but that's really the biggest change. And it doesn't change a whole lot. I think that line item, when I did the math for like the contractual attorneys was 555,000. Which I think is maybe up 20 grand from what it was this year, like total for covering all the cases. So it doesn't change a whole lot. I know we've had the discussion about juvenile cases. I don't know if that's what you were gonna go to next.
no, I got.
Okay, something else. All right.
If
And
you want to
so,
bring that up, we can discuss that, but I got another question as soon as you're done there, so.
oh, I was just gonna say, I talked to our regional, person at MIDC about that. It's going back to, the House and Senate to discuss it. MIDC anticipates probably not until 2028. So,
Lansing is slow right now, so.
yes.
My other question is you've talked about earlier about the contract attorneys and some of them looking to retire.
Yes.
Do you have anybody
No, do
looking to
you?
replace that?
Do you know anybody?
I don't, yeah. I know that's an issue that,
Yeah, it's gonna be problematic for sure, cause I know, those of you who know Bill Shirley, he's
Yeah.
been on the contract for
forever, yeah.
a long time.
Yeah,
And so he's told me that he intends to retire in July. And that's gonna be a big loss. for
and
the
those
county.
guys don't do it for the money, because they can make a lot more up
Correct.
there in the
Yeah.
private.
Oh, absolutely,
So to
absolutely.
find somebody to fill that spot that's
Yeah.
willing to dedicate themselves to a little bit for public service at that wage is gonna be difficult, so. Okay. I'll leave you alone. I don't know.
I have a question. Who's on that commission? Commission. I mean, I know Margaret used to be on there.
Margaret's still on there.
And Judge, Sarah,
Model.
yeah,
She's not on it.
yeah, she really had a lot to do with organizing.
But at the front of the grant meeting, I had a list of all the commissioners. Maybe.
Well, okay,
Might be wrong.
what is it comprised of? I mean,
There's representatives from the Criminal Defense Attorneys Association of Michigan, Michigan Judges Association, PAM, Prosecuting Attorneys Association, Michigan Association of Counties. I know there's a couple judges on there as well. I think the ACLU, just large,
great,
covers a big area.
thank you.
Thought it was on the front page of the grant manual, but maybe it's just on the website.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
And item 3 is consider approving the payment of Motorola Milestone 8 in the amount of $301,185 for the radio tower project. You have a sheriff here. Run us through this.
Been a little quiet on this front, but we can move forward. So just the background for the new commissioners and just to refresh a little bit, we were given $4.8 million grant from the state of Michigan for a new radio communications tower and public safety communications upgrades. The tower was erected over a couple of year span, turned on and functioned very well. All the agencies went out immediately, did a test on the known areas that didn't work, CMU, the city, us, and so forth. We discovered 3 locations that did not penetrate very well. One was my Michigan's emergency department, just because it's a heavy area with equipment. It did fix the rest of their building. I've been in communications with their president, Marita, and they are putting that in their 25-26 process to get some BDA options in there. We as a group decided not to do private business necessarily, but the other 2 locations were the Shepherd Schools in Wynn and the new tribal school. So we determined that those 2 areas needed BDAs, which are bidirectional antennas, to improve the communications in those 2 critical infrastructures. We have worked with Motorola, got pricing on that, which is this $300,000 price work order change. That work for the Shepherd Schools, we did do an LOU that was created by our attorney just to kind of keep the county harmless, for drilling holes in their ceilings and whatever else, and then ongoing support and maintenance would be their responsibilities. Shepherd Schools have signed that. The tribal one was sent off. Their legal department sometimes takes a little bit to get back, so we're still waiting for that one to be done, and Crouch Communications will do the work there. So this is the change order for that BDA option to get those 2 schools communications going. The subscriber stuff, which they call, which is our portables, our mobiles, all that stuff was already built in 1.5 to 2 years ago. So I think we'll be seeing now the hardware come anytime, like within the next few days, I'm guessing. Motorola's been kind of stockpiling it ready. So what I did was every police agency that was affected outside the state police who have their own pot of money for stuff, we did a individual email thread of what do you need, portables, mobiles, mics, whatever. They all come up with their own list. So I have an email list saying this is exactly what we want. Motorola is going to send that agency, this is what you decided you wanted, this is what was ordered, is that okay? They're going to check off on that and deliver them individually to all of those agencies. It'll be a little while before we can turn them on. The state's programming unit takes a little while to do the templates, and we're going to do some encrypted zones because MTSCS, which is the communications piece, has a mandate by 2027 or something like that to go to a bunch of encrypted channels statewide. So we're going to be ahead of that curve. We've built that all in. So this is a project that's kind of coming to an end. That monies will leave us about $99,900 and some dollars left, which we've kind of allocated to central dispatch in the 2% process to upgrade CMU, which is also the county's backup for police, fire, EMS, and everything. So that would zero that budget out, and we would be done with this project after 2.5, 3 years, and I'll be glad to get it off my books. Questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this will definitely improve the safety of the residents, correct?
I can't even tell you what it did for so many of the infrastructure buildings, especially in the more populated area here. CMU had a huge struggle in any of their buildings to communicate outside, and we already know they've had some unfortunate things that happened there. Box stores, Walmarts, the Myers, all those we couldn't communicate into, and we tested all of them, and they worked in all of those. So yeah, it's tenfold, Commissioner. It's created a huge increase in capabilities where we needed it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay,
The only thing I got to say is there's no money out of general fund. This is all still grant money. We won't be using any dollars out of general fund or anybody's budget. So.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, one more point, Sheriff. I have heard that even now in Lansing, they're considering public safety funding for the whole state. A little bit.
Well, we could use it.
I know.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. And we'll move that item to next week's meeting, and brings us to item number 4, consider approving the 2025 equalization report on the STC Form L 4024 as presented by the Equalization Department and required by state statute, and authorize the chairperson of the Board of Commissioners and the county clerk to sign the same and direct it to be filed with the county clerk's office and with the state tax commission in a timely manner. And we have Mr. Preston.
Thank you. I think I gave you 6, Jerry, so I'll start this other way down here. Always hot off the press, this year, data is required from the local unit on April 9th. Well, it's
Tomorrow.
it is- Yes, so as you can see, we're not, we have 2 outstanding items coming in from local units. This may vary a tiny bit. It's not anticipated to vary before next week's Board of Commissioners meeting. This does look a little different than what you've been provided in the past when Judy Nisnak was preparing this. So this is the typical staff report is the first page. And so it walks through essentially a recommendation from our office. The next page is 3127 form, which you're very familiar with. This is what Scott Cunningham, your equalization director, would sign off on. And then the 4024, which is just a tabulation of assessed value only. And that's all this has to do with, because we are equalizing on assessed value, which we're familiar with is half of what we anticipate the market value. So that's 6 pages. That is a required form that the director will sign off on, the Board of Commissioners chair and the county clerk. We have added a resolution here. I have yet to speak with the county clerk about this. This is something that we are implementing with the counties where we do work. It helps kind of formalize the process, assigning the board chair to and the county clerk to sign. This is essentially a breakdown of the numbers that are on the previous form from the state. The last page is a very simplified breakdown of what happened between 2024 and 2025. Your total equalized value or market value, or equalized value, assessed value went up 219 million. So that would mean that your essentially your market value went up approximately $440 million in the county. And that's county overall. Your taxable value increased to 146 million. And that's an increase from 2.5 billion to 2.7 billion in rough numbers. What this shows is that we had a 6.26% change in assessed value and a 5.69% change in taxable value. The rate of inflation multiplier that everybody experienced on their taxable value, if their assessed value was not less than that, was 3.1% last year. What this indicates is there's some factors going on. Isabella County did have more turnover in housing, more people purchasing than we saw in some other communities. So you're having uncappings take place. You also have a solar farm that's halfway complete. That came in at 50% of construction value. There were some tribunal changes. So those sorts of things, in the past, our office has tried to codify those, but it's all over the board. You're getting veterans moving in. You're getting, in some places, more poverty applications. You're getting tribunals that tend to stack up, some of them being 3 years old, and all of a sudden they're affecting this year. I always get nervous on the next box there that estimates revenue because of those changes that do take place. So we give you a little bit more of a simplified version here, and we put all kinds of asterisks and stuff saying, oh, this is what we estimate at this time. So essentially, you're looking at the 5.69% increase in revenue from property taxes. That will definitely lower, given if there's any major tribunals, given the number of veterans, and of course, capture as well, if local communities create a capture district. So that's where we're at right now. The taxable value is one thing. We will report that later on a form that's called a 4046, but right now we're on assessed value and market value. So that's all I have, unless you folks have any questions. Yes.
Just one, you had the 5.69 increase and the factor was 3.1. What sector did you see increase the most? Is it agriculture, or was it housing, or they're all about the same?
It's so.
I haven't been through the numbers yet.
Yeah, every year we do an equalization study that says agricultural in each local unit, has to come up, a certain point because we're comparing it to their assessed value. Anytime we're comparing to assessed value, that's a determination of 18 different assessors. So, and so they balance to theirs. It's hard for me to say sector because we see differentiations. We don't dive too deep into it. I mean, we're at the county level, but residential by far went up the most. However, the caveat there is that our study was 2 years old, starting in March of 2020, or going backwards from March of 2024. It is not catching this slump right now. There is a slump. And so now our date was just March 31st when our study period ends. So we're going to go back 2 years and look at those values. But residential, we are looking at potentially less of a bump for next year. And
we've seen some really crazy sales in agriculture right now, and it's at 3-year average, but it's like some of them you kind of wonder if they're an outlier or not, but there's been more than one sale. There's been a couple, 2 or 3 sales. It's really pushed the market. So I'm just curious. I know it's an average. It'll take a while to catch up. And I was wondering if the same thing was happening in the residential or not.
No, residential has been consistently, going up. Now, we have seen those spikes. I remember years back that the worry was when the wind turbines came into Coe Township and such, it would drive ag values down. They actually saw a significant increase over time. We do have outlier sales. One of the things that, years back I went to the MTA and presented how we did a study. I think that'd be appropriate again. We have new spreadsheets, the way we do it and the way that we judge outliers. It's very difficult. Some of these local farmers know, what's tiled and what's not. And, for us to dive into that is and then also you have cash sales, you have, those kind of things that are definitely kept off the books and folks do not want to report, even though we send them, you must report documents.
Yeah, you're also seeing a lot more investors investing in agricultural lands as a
Conglomerates.
as a portfolio investment. So that
Large dairy operations, you'll see a lot of land purchase just to spread the waste.
Yeah.
And that does drive, trucking costs are.
well, that they have to because of the CAFOs.
Yeah.
They have to require so much land to process the numbers of animals they have. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I remember when you were proposing having the wind farm and there was all this misinformation that it would drive your land, the worth of your land down. So, and we went forward and make sure land go up, right? Land go up. So it was quite hard to fight disinformation and outright lies, personally attacked and so forth. And people were all hopped up about everything. So I hope that the constituents out there will pay attention to what you just said, that it really helps in Coe Township and other places.
Yes, that was an instance that we saw with wind turbines. Now, solar is going to be a little bit of a different situation because it takes up the majority of the land for an industrial purpose. So as the assessor in that unit transitions into this year, you're going to see a class change, which will actually bring a large portion of ag out of that class. So we'll see what that does as well.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, I know not everybody goes to the council of government meetings, but this gentleman's been pretty good with attending to make himself available to our local units of government. I know there was some concern when we privatized the equalization and getting all the correct information for the tax billings, but I haven't heard anybody at those meetings voicing any concerns, and Pete's there to answer questions, and appreciate that.
If things have smoothed out as far as the department for right now, and so we're going into our next season here. Equalization studies were right up to the line or over the line for getting to local units, but we were on task to address any concerns they had and make sure that was taken care of. So there's always a few here or there's. The seasons get difficult in equalization when they're very crammed together in just a short period of time. And so now, Jerry, I get to tell you, I'm probably not going to make the next meeting.
That's it up, man. I do my best.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
I will be available at the board meeting as well. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, and we will move that item to next week's meeting, and item number 5 is consider approving the Isabella County Personnel Manual for non-represented employees, sections H3, use of PTO hours, and 1 earned sick time act policy.
Okay. What you'll see on the personnel manual, we just took an excerpt out of it. We did not include the entire one, just the areas that was being changed. So if you look at page 101-15, use of PTO hours, basically it just outlines the use, the employee's own or family member's illness, injury, or health conditions, medical diagnosis, care, treatment, preventative medical care, situations related to domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. It just outlines that's what we had to put in the manual so that the employees know that if there's a last minute call off, that was an allowable use for that. And then you also have that the county will maintain records of sick usage and accrual in compliance with the Michigan's Earned Sick Time Act. These records will be kept 3 years. And then the big change was 101-17, where we added a complete new section of I, and this spells out Earned Sick Time Act for seasonal and temporary employees. We only have a few of those, but what it does say is that they will receive 1 hour sick for every 30 hours of work. And then it just outlines the cap, the usage, and then the notice requirements on that. So that just makes it in compliance with the Earned Sick Time Act that took right up to the last minute when the state legislature voted on it. And so this is the version that they passed. This has went through legal counsel for their review, and open any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Any comments from staff on impacts to their operation?
I've heard nothing when it came out, and so really, I think for 99% of your employees, just put in that additional language in for when they can call off without retribution or anything like that. There's been very minimal change to anyone. Again, I think it's in our parks area where we would have the seasonal and temp. And so they haven't started yet. I think we may have had one, but we've been keeping track of it in recognition that this would be adopted.
Yeah. Anything else? All right, thank you. And that will bring us to item 6. We'll move that item forward to the meeting next week. And item 6 is consider approving the amended administrator controller contract with Brian A. Smith with an effective date of May 1st, 2025.
Yeah, I'll address this a little bit. It's a little bit different from what we've usually done. We've brought it out into the open so everybody can discuss it. We can't make motions today to do it, so it's an open discussion. Administrator Smith had the opportunity to take this to closed door because it's a negotiation on a contract. He decided to have it in the open here so we could discuss it. We're going to talk about some of the the contract negotiation. We're looking for basically some stability in the county. We're looking at a 3-year contract. Basically, with all the issues that we've had to dealt with, I've worked well with the Mayor Smith so far, and looking for some long-term planning, some stability. And that's why we're looking at a 3-year contract. I think the only thing that was different on there is added to similar contracts, or if there's a cost of living increase for the employees, that also gets applied on there. I guess, did I miss anything? Or probably did.
In the severance.
Severance pay right now, I think previous contracts, I think it was 6, so I think you really asked actual was 2 years on 8-year. Or 8-year, yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe a 2-year severance, so yeah. 2 months.
Severance is, of course, if there's cause to be fired, there is no severance, so that's as if the board decided at one time to fire him because we didn't, there would be, without cause, he would get the contract of commissioner.
I just reading over the termination section, I'm not sure that that is fully vetted out. As far as, severance for cause and not cause type of thing. Because reading it, it just says if the administrator cannot do their job. And so if we move forward with severance, we're gonna move forward with severance of some sort.
Okay.
I would like maybe council to look at our section 3, which is termination, and section 4, which is the severance. Also, I would say that my preference would be to stick with 6 months. Coming from industry where severance was a standard, severance was generally rated upon years service. And 6 months is what I would consider a good standard, like a gold standard. And anything beyond that is.
So you're asking basically to, we might agree on as far as clarifying the contract, as far as
Right.
Clause. We want to.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that
Okay.
the section 3 on termination is appropriate. I know that this contract is essentially the same from probably 2016 or 18. Certainly before I started on the board. So I don't know who wrote it or when's the last time we had.
Determination you want worded different, you're saying?
I don't need to have a worded, I would like to have council confirm that.
Coincides with the employee handbook.
Well, employee handbook, but it also confirms with our thoughts with what, termination with or without cause is, right? We throw out termination with or without cause, but it's certainly not stated in section 3 and it's not defined. I'm not a lawyer, so that's why I would think does anyone know the last time we had council review this contract?
Would you be talking like our back council or?
Bonnie Toski?
Bonnie Toski.
Bonnie.
She reviewed this.
She reviewed this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, does she? Then can we ask Bonnie her thoughts on that? Then I would just say, ask Bonnie Toski the thoughts on section 3 termination and how it relates to severance and.
It's definitely a connection.
Right. you know, maybe I can. It's just the fact that, you know, my background is biology
That's,
and not law.
that's why we open this up to everybody. So, no, seriously,
Right.
because before you'd have a committee of 2 or 3 doing it and then they'd come back confused stuff.
Mhm.
This way it opens it up and we're not voting and we have a week to determine what we want to do and get back on there. And then we will vote as far as what every commissioner feels is right on there. So, you know, I think the process is better than it has been. So,
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
Are you done?
no, I'm not done. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You finish what you were saying.
I'm never finished what I was saying. Come on. So what goes on? The other thing is that, you know, the last 2 administrators have left. And it wasn't a firing process, so they would not, we cleared this up, they were not required to get any separate space.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to make
No.
that clear as we're, you know, if they leave, I said, we're only talking if this board decides out of the blue to say, well, we don't want you here anymore, and we do it, so. And I think some of the conversations we've had is this is more of a security,
Right,
safety blanket.
right. It's within, you know, all of our term limits. So, it's not, certainly, termination is way outside, you know,
And
standard thoughts because you know, the makeup of the board isn't changing.
And some of what we will find the problem is making quick decisions. So a lot of the things that we're looking for the county is long-term, we want to do, so sometimes an easy solution is the quick one, and it's not the long-term planning, and I do think that we do need stability going, some
Mhm.
forward thinking as as a farmer, we're looking at, I know this year's looking at a fun year, but we are looking forward all the time for, you know, 2, 3, 4 years ahead, and we plan. That's how we're doing this. So we're setting the county up. We have some stable leadership. Said, I think a lot of the changes we've made, you know, as far as even discussing this contract in open is a lot different than we've ever done it before, so. Tom, yes, sir. Whoops, I'm sorry.
If I just may provide a couple background, and the rationale on a 3-year contract starting in May would be to prevent it from following in an October election year to where then be subject to a 1-year contract at that point. Plus you get it earlier in the year, you avoid some of the politics that may happen when there's things going on in 28. So that's why that rationale right there. I came up with the 8 months because in the industry, it's becoming more and more pronounced that it's 6 months. It used to be 6 months. There are some counties out there that are literally given a year. Midland County, Mecosta County, Saginaw County, just with their former administrator, had a year. So a year is not unheard of, and I'm not asking for that. 8 months in the industry provides security. Provides me the opportunity that if I'm let go without cause, that I'm able to find other employment. And it's just a benefit to me that I hope to never use. And so if it's never used, then it costs us nothing. And I hope it's like that. And I hope to stay here until I retire. So it's just more of a security thing with the position. And that's why I came up with the 8 months.
I like what Chairman Engler said about, us needing consistency.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you say
And,
that?
I'm never gonna repeat that, no.
Okay.
We do need some consistency in it. That makes a 3-year contract make sense. Commissioner Sweeney has a good point about the termination language. In my mind, this doesn't really spell out any difference between termination with cause or without cause. And if we can get that clarified, then I would be okay with the 8-month severance. So a little more work to do on that termination, or maybe just some clarification from council.
I'm not sure how it was to work with previous administrators, but I've enjoyed my time I've already spent with you, Brian. I appreciate it.
And our administrator is he works for the board, so, and he works with our department heads, so I know some of the other boards I've worked with, I don't know, 5 different CEOs and stuff, so. And when the board starts micromanaging within departments, I said it usually does not end well, so Brian's been very open, we've had a lot of discussions, we haven't always agreed on everything, which is how it's supposed to work, and I gave up a few things and he's given up a few things, so we'll see how it goes, but it seems to be an open, it's working well, so I look forward to going forward. And
Yes, sir.
I would like to have a bit more discussion on the contract dates. Just to vet out that you mentioned that, and I was thinking of that earlier, but I wasn't thinking about the election cycle as much as I was thinking about the budget cycle. And since that time is about a month from now or less, having a new administrator come in at this point, or like in 3 weeks from now, or longer in the budget cycle, how disruptive would that be? Should we, so my point is, should we extend to a little later in the budget cycle, or October 2nd?
I think anything you get between May and till the budget is adopted would be a little disruptive. I think by having a finance director in that position could ease a lot of the impact of that. The finance director is the one that is inputting all the information, everything and, providing direction and stuff like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there would be an impact, but I think if you were to do it in May, would be less of an impact than if you get it later in the year, because then now they're having to play catch up and catching the budget being adopted towards the end rather than being there at the beginning of the process. So I think May might even be a little easier if I were to retire years from now and somebody starts, and again, depends upon the board at the time, how fast they're gonna get somebody in. It may impact the time. I would think that I would be given enough notice that would allow the board to get somebody in sooner than later. I don't know if that fully answered your question, but either way, there's gonna be impact. I think there's just gonna be, at the end of the day, less of impact in May than there would be starting in September or October.
and if there's if he's looking at a retirement, it'd be an opportunity to have a mentoring process going through, so you can bring someone in. It's not, if it's somebody that's a planned retirement, I found out that to bring somebody else underneath, hire mentor for a month or two to get them up, that process works well, so.
In retirement is years and years of. It's not even, it's not even thought about.
I'm trying that and it doesn't work so well.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? If not, we'll move this to next week's meeting and we'll get some clarification on the termination language in the meantime.
And I think you've been in communication, so any changes and stuff has been run through Teresa and not,
We'll
I
try
have
to,
not been in contact with legal on this one. It's all been through HR. So she'll get the directive in which to do this. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that I'm not communicating with Bonnie on this.
and anybody has any questions, I'll run the lead on this, try to get it out to the other director or commissioners that as needed, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we will move that to next week's meeting. And that will bring us down to general public comment. Open to anything you want to talk about. For 3 minutes.
You want my address and everything on this, actually time. So thank you. Tobin, I want to say specifically thank you to you for bringing up the itemization of the mental health line. We've talked about that. I appreciate that. In the future, I do hope to see that the next budget has actual items when we have something such as mental health and it falls on one line. And Steve, thank you. Steve, not Weber, Swain. Thank you for bringing up the question and bringing it to the table about the your package in your 8 months versus your 6 months. Brian, I think you're great here. I hope that you stay here. I also just want to say from the conservative side, 8 months is a really big severance, no offense, for a 3-year contract. As a conservative and as a taxpayer, I would imagine that if you are fired, that you are also able to collect unemployment. So personally, I'd love to see like 3 months. Let's not get fired and let's keep doing your job really, really, really well. With that said, and speaking of financials, there was, along with the question in mental health, a question that I had asked about the $58,000 that was spent for dues and subscriptions. So I'm going to pass this around. You can each take one. I'm being responsible and I would like my folder back so that I can reuse it again because I'm sure I'll need to provide something. But the question that I am asking is pertaining to the Board of Commissioners expenditures that include but are not limited to the expenditures of funds towards participations in organizations or associations that are not limited to, but such as the Michigan Association of Counties and the National Association of Counties and any events or activities pertaining to such. You can go through the list that I put here in this FOIA, but I would like to know what are dues and subscriptions in the amount of $58,000 paying for? Because quite frankly, if this is for things, which I would imagine, such as the Michigan Association of Counties, I then would like to see what events you're going to, what's taking place in the events that you're going to, because knowing that our taxpayer dollars paid for a really great meeting to find out about marine flares is not actually useful to this county. If I were to have a choice, I would say, listen, I would love to pay for all of you to go to DC and meet with Elon Musk and potentially be schooled in Doge and how that works with government and what you can do to start cutting costs in Isabella County. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out with me. And I will end this in saying, I do appreciate that things such as the American Heart Association that you do share with the county. This is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And actually President Trump had made his proclamation on April 2nd, and you can all look that up. But if that's something you're all interested in sharing, that would be terrific. Thank you so much.
Yep. Anyone else for general public comment? Okay, seeing no other general public comment, announcements. Commissioner, any announcements? Yes.
Even though the deadline is April 7th for the Conservation District tree sale, you could still probably get a few orders in there yet. So if anybody's late ordering or something, you can call and find out what is still there, because they always order extra. So there's always time yet to get in your order in. So, and we still don't know if they started pulling the trees. Maybe Commissioner Weber might know, yeah, but we haven't heard that they started pulling any trees, so we don't know a pickup date yet. So.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Support, Marino.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.